Good afternoon, and thank you all for joining us. And thank you to Margie Prop for providing interpretation for this news conference. We have two different but related topics today. Both deal with the concept of serving others. Later, we will hear about mentoring opportunities available in our community. First, we are going to talk about Martin Luther King Jr. Day, which is officially observed this year on Monday, January 18th. Tomorrow would have been the 92nd birthday of the Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. Assassinated at just 39 years old, his time on earth was cut tragically short. Yet with the too brief time he had, Dr. King moved our nation forward with the power of his words, his brave actions, and his inspiring commitment to justice and equality. And as we prepare to observe the national holiday held in his honor, we can best honor Dr. King's legacy by recommitting ourselves to continuing his strides toward a more just, equitable, and peaceful world. Last week, we witnessed events at our nation's capital that run counter to the values that Dr. King lived by and espoused, and counter to the values that Americans hold sacred. And like you, I watched in despair as the violent mob shattered glass windows, scaled stone walls, and proceeded to desecrate the temple of American democracy. I know that you shared my horror at the picture of a Confederate flag in our sacred rotunda. That ugly imagery and the ideology behind it demonstrate yet again how much work our nation still needs to do to heal the wounds of racial injustice and ensure that every American enjoys true freedom and equality. We can find some small solace in the fact that the rioters who ransacked our nation's capital did not win. Congress reconvened and finished its business in peace. And we can find satisfaction from the fact that the perpetrators of the violence are being held accountable. And we can find hope in a new administration that promises to unite rather than further divide us. We can also take heart from the spirit, kindness, and commitment to a better world that we find right here in the people of Lincoln, Nebraska. I was heartened earlier this week at my virtual neighborhood roundtable when a longtime leader from the Witherby neighborhood, Fred Freitag, expressed his wish for peace as a challenge. Fred typed into the Zoom chat that he would like to challenge everyone in the roundtable to do something positive in the days and weeks to come to help bring our country back together, and to help close the divide for a better tomorrow. Leave it to a former president of a Lincoln neighborhood association to sound so truly presidential. His call to action echoes one of the major themes of MLK Day, to make it a day on, not a day off, a theme that builds on one of my favorite of Dr. King's inspiring beliefs, that everybody can be great because anybody can serve. So how can we serve one another? How can we honor Dr. King's legacy? As we approach this important American holiday, I'm issuing my own challenge to recognize that peace and justice start inside each one of us and to recommit to doing our part to realize Dr. King's dream. Lincoln usually has several major public events that celebrate Dr. King's life and inspire us to continue his important work. And while the pandemic has altered these events, the organizers are still offering our community ways to reflect upon Dr. King's legacy of service and to recommit ourselves to achieving his vision of a truly equitable and just society. One of these major public events is the annual Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. Youth Rally and March, now in its 26th year. This year's rally and march will be held virtually, but one element of the event remains unchanged, and that's that this event is planned entirely by some of Lincoln's best and brightest youth scholars. Pete Ferguson, the Youth Development Coordinator for Lincoln Public Schools, has been involved in the event for many years, and he joins us today with information about how all of us can take this time to walk together toward kindness, justice, civility, and equality. Welcome, Pete.
Well, first off, I'd like to thank you, Mayor, and also Director Lopez and your team, not only for the opportunity to share about this year's Youth Rally and March, but also just the many steps that you've taken to serve the city during these unique times. As you can tell, I am not a youth, but I am Pete Ferguson and have had the privilege to serve for the last 23 years as the adult advisor for the Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. Youth Rally and March. The Youth Rally is a march that is organized by a diverse group of area youth and is held in conjunction with the national recognition of the birthday of the late Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. It is a unique scholar showcase with all components intended to celebrate his legacy and the mission of the planning committee, and that is promotion of the life and dreams of the late Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King through positive youth action in this community. The Youth Planning Committee invites you to this hybrid virtual observation of the 26th Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. Youth Rally and March. We will have a combination of packaged, pre-taped components and live segments. We encourage you to join a program developed to empower, educate, and inspire through components that address our 2021 theme, which is an extension of our 25th annual experience that was held last year. But as we looked at the theme and the nature of it, the theme for last year had increased significance and relevance from the events of last year. Our 2021 theme is Walk Together, rallying steps towards equity, justice, kindness, and civility. King stated, "There is no noise as powerful as the sound of a marching feet of determined people." The annual Youth Rally and March seeks, as I said, to empower, educate, and entertain those 4 to 90 years of age. Unlike prior years and due to COVID, the 2021 experience will be virtual and streamed via various platforms, thanks very much to this generosity of the City of Lincoln and Link TV. The Rally and March will be live streamed on Link TV, the educational website, Link TV YouTube, and Link TV Facebook. Monday's agenda will include, and it will start at 9:30 to 10 with a virtual pre-rally. We ask that you may join us for a mashup of various Dr. King speeches, bios, motivational music, empowerment cameo messages, and this all leads up to the grand event, the 10 o'clock call to action program. Beginning at 10 to 11 a.m., the 26th annual Youth Rally and March call to action program will feature a youth keynote, a scholar letter to incoming First Lady Harris, a passionate call from high school scholar Daniel Turner that we must continue to take steps, a tribute to the late Congressman John Lewis, and you won't want to miss the We Are the Dream Belmont Track Scholars choral book reading presentation of This is the Dream. Kylan Trout, a middle school scholar and a planning committee member, said, "Our rally this year will share things it will take for us to stay the course for needed change that so many before us, kids and adults across the world, took. It's important that we take steps right now to walk together toward the goals of not just Dr. King, but our founder, Dr. Leola Bullock. We've encouraged people to engage in socially distanced and responsible watch parties and join those watching not only in Lincoln, but Omaha, Kansas City, California, Iowa, and our list continues to grow. We ask visit our website, mlkyouthrally.com, to download a virtual viewing guide to enhance your viewing experience. We'd also like to give a couple special notes of thanks to our community stakeholders. Again, Mayor, Diane, Jamie, Bo, and the city for their unwavering support, the University of Nebraska-Lincoln, Raft by Polytech, Nebraska Community Foundation, the BCC Belmont Community Center, Lincoln Public Schools, Joshua Lohmeyer, Brittany Balkovac, Emily Koopman, and Dr. Jake Kirkland, just to name a few. In closing, while we recognize many activities needed to cease or postpone, it has been continued events like those that occurred at our nation's capital last Wednesday, June in Minneapolis, and in January of 2020 with the vandalizing of the South Street Temple in our own city, that we know whether we are going to be live or there's going to be one person in the room, this year's message is relevant. As one of the scholars' pieces states, no matter what steps we take, we have to do it together. Our steps aren't as powerful separate, but if we walk together, he says, without a doubt, we can make that change. we will make a difference. And if we make the necessary steps to walk together to equity, justice, kindness, and civility, this is what we want to see in our city, our state, our country, and we need to see in our world. Thank you, and we look forward to seeing you on Monday, January 18th, virtually.
Thank you so much, Pete, and thank you so much to the scholars who have put so much hard work into this year's virtual rally and march. And again, for more information for that virtual viewing guide, please go to mlkyyouthrally.com. The annual Freedom Breakfast to mark MLK Day is one of Lincoln's most beloved events and community traditions. Hundreds typically gather to share a meal, celebrate with song, and hear words of inspiration from community leaders. The Freedom Breakfast raises funds to provide scholarships to promising high school student leaders in Lincoln. And while the pandemic has prevented us from gathering this year at this time, this important cause remains. Joining us now by Zoom to share more about how we can still uphold the spirit and support the cause of the Freedom Breakfast are first Jose Soto, Vice President of Access and Diversity for Southeast Community College, followed by retired educator and beloved community leader himself, Thomas Christie, who was one of the founders of the Freedom Breakfast. Welcome, gentlemen, and over to you, Jose.
Thank you very much, Mayor. Really appreciate the opportunity to share with folks our appreciation for their support and interest and participation over the years. The Mayor's office, including yours, has always been very supportive, and we appreciate that. And I'd be remiss if I didn't mention that I, along with thousands and millions of other folks, really watched in dismay the activities that took place in our nation's capital. I am hopeful that we will be able to rectify that and never see that in my grandchildren's and their children's life. I've got only about 3 items that I'd like to focus on. First one is the planning committee for this event, which you're right, has taken on a life of its own in Lincoln. People look forward to it, and because of COVID, we thought it was wise to at least postpone it or find another way of honoring and recognizing Dr. King. And we want to thank the supporters over 28 years, institutions, individuals, small groups, large groups, people who provided small amounts and large amounts to make sure that we could keep providing scholarships for Lincoln Public School students. And over the years, there have been hundreds of those young people who have benefited from your generosity and support. Another thing is that we are working on organizing a virtual event that would be in recognition of Dr. Martin Luther King. It'll be sometime in the event in the future. We're working with a local video company that it will assist us in pulling that together. Please stay tuned to media outlets, newspaper, etc. And I'm hopeful that you will be able to join us for that event. And I'm thinking that if we can get that organized within the next 6 to 8 weeks, we'll be good to go. The last thing I'd like to do is to thank all the committee members who over the years have worked tirelessly as volunteers in addition to their jobs, meeting countless hours, engaging in a lot of different support activities to make sure that the breakfast went off without a hitch. Assembling crowds of 400 to 800 individuals, making sure that everybody gets fed and there's some order to it, and that we end up with a program that has a substantive message requires a lot of work. And I'd like to name those individuals for you. Mr. Ed Wimes, retired senior administrator with the University of Nebraska system. Stancia Jenkins, who's currently a senior administrator out of the Nebraska University President's Office, who focuses on diversity issues. Ms. Charlie Foster, who works in the area of diversity, student support, multicultural activities at the college. And last but not least, my dear friend and colleague, Mr. Thomas Christie, who was one of the, along with Mr. Wimes, one of the originators and supporters and coordinators of the Freedom Breakfast. And throughout his life as an educator, whether that was in the classroom, a wrestling coach, or a building or district level administrator, I always thought it was important to focus attention on the messages and the achievements of Martin Luther King, and with the hopes that we could encourage folks to not only reflect on those principles, but give life to those principles. So with that, I would turn it over to my colleague, Mr. Thomas Christie.
Thank you, Mr. Jose. I will be remiss to not reflect on what I think Dr. King would be doing in these trying times. A man who stood for nonviolence. I believe that he would be really frustrated, as many of us are. I've thought over the last few days, I wonder what message he would be given at this time. I remember when Dr. Parker came to me and wanted to start this breakfast, and the primary purpose, it was not about giving, it was about sharing, and it was about recognizing a man who had dedicated his life to nonviolence, respect for all human beings, regardless of their income, their status, their orientation, their nationality, their ethnicity, how much they own or didn't own, but to all human beings. And I reflected on what he would be doing today. How would he be responding to the crisis that we're dealing with in our democracy? He was a strong proponent of American democracy, this project that started hundreds of years ago. It's not a perfect union, but the idea was to work towards a perfect union. And we can tell that we still have work that needs to be done. We see that there's some flaws that we must work on, and hopefully in the near future, we will start to unravel some of those holes that maybe we didn't recognize that people would take advantage of because they just were not feeling that they were part of the system. I hope the goal will be that that we can make people feel as Dr. King dreamed, that people would be judged by their character, the content of their character, not where they came from, not any of those other arbitrary kinds of things that we all make a part of us. He was about justice, freedom, and education. So the first several years, the committee was not looking to do anything other than to recognize and respect what Dr. King, the challenges that he had left us. and the city responded very well over the years. And no one dreamed that it would last this long, nor did anyone dream that we would be given over $100,000 worth of scholarships over the years. That will not end. The Lincoln Public School Foundation pretty much has an endowed scholarship, but it must still need money, still need funds to continue to provide those scholarships. As we gave last year, we will be giving scholarships again to students this year. And we try to give scholarships to a variety of children from all of the high schools in Lincoln Public Schools. We try to make sure that those scholarships are given to kids who are in need, who also have the opportunity and the skills to be able to go to college. And we will continue that. And there was an article in the paper a week or so ago emphasizing that you could send funds still to the Lincoln Public Schools Foundation for the Martin Luther King Jr. Breakfast Scholarship. So we hope you would consider to do that, as people have done for the breakfast. Many people did that even after the breakfast. And we would hope that you would continue to do that. And it makes us proud to know that there are students who have gotten scholarships over the years. Many have graduated from college. Some are in college right now at the university, Southeast Community College, and so forth. So we're very pleased with that. And we look forward to you continuing to support this effort. Thank you, and keep the dream alive.
Well, thank you so much, Mr. Christie and Mr. Soto. Thank you both for your leadership and all you've done to make this beloved community tradition something that so many embrace. And again, if you want to contribute to the Freedom Breakfast Scholarship Fund and help support the cause, you can mail a donation to the LPS Foundation in care of the MLK Scholarship Fund, and that's at 59050 O Street here in Lincoln, the zip code 68510. You can also donate online at foundationforlps.org and designate your gift for the Freedom Scholarship. We also want to take a little time this afternoon to highlight that the University of Nebraska-Lincoln is presenting a series of events to honor Dr. King's legacy. And this year's MLK Week features a virtual conversation with Bernice A. King, daughter of the civil rights icon. Ms. King is the CEO of the Martin Luther King Jr. Center for Nonviolent Social Change. And joining us by Zoom with more details on UNL's MLK Week is a member of the Planning Committee, Dr. Nkinji Friday, Assistant Vice Chancellor for Strategic Affairs at UNL. Welcome, Dr. Friday, and over to you.
Thank you so much, Mayor. So the University of Nebraska-Lincoln is proud to present a week-long celebration of the legacy of Dr. Martin Luther King. This will be January 25th through 29th. Our theme this year, continue to speak out against all forms of injustice to yourselves and others, and you will set a mighty example for your children and for future generations. This was selected by the MLK Week Committee to highlight a year of historical social activism and movements and community action, both locally and nationally. The week will culminate with the virtual MLK commemorative celebration on Thursday, January 28th, starting at 10:30 a.m., which will feature a conversation with Dr. Bernice A. King, a global thought leader, orator, and a peace advocate. Dr. King is the daughter of the Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. and Coretta Scott King. We are very honored and quite excited to welcome Dr. Bernice King to the campus. And during the commemorative celebration, the university will award the 2021 Chancellor's Fulfilling the Dream Award. This is an annual award that's provided to campus and community members that reflect Dr. King's legacy and the commitment to social justice. The event will also feature performances by the Nebraska Repertory Theater and the St. Louis Black Repertory Company. Additional events during the week will include a virtual guided conversation with members of our local community on the historic upcoming presidential inauguration, a panel discussion with the African and African American Studies program for the Institute of Ethnic Studies, a performance screening, and a collaboration between campus partners and economic justice and efforts towards eliminating the opportunity gap. As said earlier, this year commemoration really does charge us to become active participants in the fight for a community that safeguards equity, inclusion, justice, and respect for all. We are currently seeing that play out in our national stage, but right now, more than ever, these conversations are absolutely necessary. And so we are charging everyone to speak up, speak out, and engage in difficult conversations, and to heed the words and actions of leaders such as Dr. King. Now, to make this year a memorable one, we are grateful for the leadership of our university, including the Vice Chancellor for Diversity and Inclusion, Dr. Marco Barker, members of the MLK Week Committee, our campus sponsors who have made much of our programming a reality, our partners across the institution, and of course in our community, and the ongoing support of our leader, Chancellor Dr. Ronnie Green. All members of the community and beyond are welcome to join us during this week. Sign up and additional information, of course, can be found on our website. This also includes ways that you can partner with the university, but also to sponsor future efforts. Last year, we featured a phenomenal speaker, and we are just as elated to feature Dr. Bernice King, and we welcome everyone to the campus virtually, of course. We want to make sure we're adhering to that. And again, we welcome you January 25th through the 29th.
Thank you so much, Dr. Friday, for your leadership and for putting on such an incredible series of events. And you can find out more about the MLK Week events at the website mlkweek.unl.edu. And if you are looking for new ways to be of service in our community, you will discover that volunteering during a pandemic looks a little bit different. On the one hand, many organizations are pivoting away from on-site volunteering due to safety precautions. And on the other hand, the pandemic has created new opportunities to be of service. One example is the NeighborLink program, created by Aging Partners back in April. NeighborLink pairs seniors and those who are homebound with volunteers who provide companionship and compassionate ear and help accessing contactless services like groceries and medication pickup. You can find out more about NeighborLink at aging.lincoln.ne.gov. And one of the most meaningful ways to serve others is to be a mentor to a young person. In June, local mentoring programs came together to form the Lincoln Youth Mentoring Coalition to learn from one another, to coordinate recruitment, and to advocate for the value of mentors. 22 programs are participating. They include Teammates, Big Brothers Big Sisters, City Impact, CASA, and the Lincoln Public School federal programs. Between mid-2019 and mid-2020, our local mentoring programs served about 4,500 young people. Teammates alone benefited more than 1,500 people, 75% of whom were experiencing poverty. Now, experts say mentoring can significantly buffer the adverse effects of poverty for young people. Mentoring is one of the ways that we make our society more equitable, and you can make a lasting positive impact on a child's life by becoming a mentor. If this calling resonates with you, and if you feel the pull to make a difference for a young person here in Lincoln, please consider becoming a mentor. Lincoln's demand for mentors far exceeds the supply. Teammates needs nearly 800 more volunteer mentors to meet the current need. With the pandemic, more of the mentoring takes place virtually, but the connection to a trusted adult mentor is not lost. Their presence can help children maintain emotional well-being and academic success. And volunteering can actually help the mentor stay healthy and connected too. Mentoring lifts up the lives of those who are volunteering as much as those who they are serving. And as someone who has often served as a mentor over the years and worked in youth development programs and even directed a Boys and Girls Club, I have experienced firsthand the transformative power of the mentoring relationship for the mentees and the mentors, which is why I was pleased to accept Teammates' nomination to join the Mayors for Mentoring campaign. And at this time, I'd like to invite Teammates coordinator Jim Bennett to join me, socially distanced, of course, as I issue a proclamation to thank Teammates and to celebrate National Mentoring Month. Welcome, Jim. It's so nice to have you here. Whereas Lincoln residents are committed to high-quality mentoring programs which provide caring adult mentors to youth in our community, and whereas the programs support personal growth, academic success, social skills, community engagement, and positive decision-making, and whereas mentoring programs like Lincoln's Teammates and the efforts of the Lincoln Youth Mentoring Coalition build stronger communities by connecting students and trustworthy adults who help them access additional resources when needed. Now therefore I, Lyrian Gaylor Baird, Mayor of the City of Lincoln, Nebraska, do hereby proclaim January 2021 as Mentoring Month in our community to encourage residents to consider volunteering as a mentor to a young person or otherwise support mentoring agencies. Thank you so much. And now, we'd love to have you say a few words.
Thank you, Mayor. National Mentoring Month celebrates the thousands of caring adults in the city of Lincoln who are mentoring every week and are doing so during difficult times for Lincoln's young people. They're doing so safely, either by following strict safety measures while in person or through virtual mentoring. Kids need us now more than ever, and the mentoring organizations and the mentors in our community are answering the call. I want to thank the mayor for joining Mayors for Mentoring. The movement is how we're elevating mentoring as a vital form of community service. Mayors for Mentoring is a national movement sponsored by the National Mentoring Partnership, otherwise known as Mentor, to promote mentoring in communities and to increase the quality and the quantity of mentoring opportunities for young people. The mayor has been such a strong advocate for youth, and for that we are greatly appreciative. Much work is already being done in the Lincoln area to improve access to quality mentoring programs. This year, teammates, along with 21 other mentoring organizations, convened and started the Lincoln Youth Mentoring Coalition, with support provided by the Community Health Endowment. The Community Health Endowment understands the importance of mentoring for not only a young person's mental well-being, but the impact it has on their physical health, both in the short term and over their lifetimes. As providers of mentoring in Lincoln, we all understand the benefit of the donors and the funders like the Community Health Endowment in the United Way of Lincoln and Lancaster County. We would not be able to do this work without the impact of thousands of youth each year without their support. Mentoring works. Students who are mentored show improved grades, school performance, better attendance, and have better graduation rates. They show improved health outcomes and increased optimism for what the future holds. But maybe most importantly, they overwhelmingly report an increased feeling of trust and hope. They overwhelmingly report an increased feeling of trust and hope, and trust that there is always going to be someone to support them as they live and learn, and hope in what the future holds and what they can achieve in life. Is there anything more we could ask for our youth? I think not. Mentoring definitely works. Finally, I want to thank all the mentors out there who are changing lives and impacting the future of our youth. Most mentors report that the experience of mentoring has impacted their own lives. We encourage all of you to consider becoming a mentor. As the mayor said, nearly 800 more volunteers are required to meet the need for teammates, but 1,000 more to meet our needs across our community. You can meet that need for a child. Your gift of time can change the life of a child. So at this time, I'd like to present to the mayor a certificate of recognition from the National Mentoring Alliance. It says, it certifies and presented to Mayor Lyrian Gaylor Baird in recognition of a positive contribution to the youth mentoring field. And as a mayor of mentoring, you demonstrate leadership in supporting the increased quality and quantity of mentoring relationships for young people in your community. So this is for you, Mayor. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Jeremy. Thank you for what you do.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you again, Jim. That was a really nice surprise. We appreciate your commitment to ensuring the success of youth throughout our community. And again, to find more about teammates and how you might get involved, please go to lincolnteammates.org. And by lending our time in service to our neighbors, every one of us has the ability to create a more compassionate, just, equitable, and civil society. I think what you heard from everyone here today is that through service to others, we have the ability to make our own lives about more than ourselves and to make real the promises of our democracy. And with that, I want to say thank you again to everyone who's been here today, to all of you for joining us, and then just open it up and see if anyone has any questions. And if there are no questions, I hope that everyone is able to find ways to make our upcoming holiday honoring the Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. a day on, not a day off. Thank you.